what is position? Position is a measure of where is the anchor point in comp space. What is comp space? Comp space is where 0, 0 is at the top left of your comp and 1920 by 1080 is at the bottom right of your comp. Anything different than that is not comp space, and it's just a way of measuring coordinates. So as we move around and change the green box's position, the anchor point relative to comp space changes. So if we move this anchor point here to 1920 by 1080, you can see that the position also reads 1920 by 1080. So if position is where is the anchor point relative to comp space, then what is anchor point? Anchor point is where is the anchor point relative to the layers space, right? So you can see the anchor point says 340 by 0. Layer space is essentially where 0 is at the center of your shape, right? And when we move this around, you can see position still changing, but anchor point is not changing because it's measured from the center of our shape. Okay, but what if we give this guy a parent? So we'll call that green parent. Now the position is measured relative to its parent. So if you go along 884 and down 424, this is where you wind up. So we're now not measuring position in comp space, we're measuring position relative to the parent's layer space, where if we make this 0, 0, we're at the center of this layer. So if I just zero out this anchor point, so I'm going to make a new box. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to call it red. And I'm going to make it red. And I want red to go inside of green, right? So how could I do that? Well, if they had the same parent, I could just make the position the same. So another way we could do it is using toComp. So how we do that is we say green is this layer. We look inside green's layer space and we say the point 0, 0 in green's layer space, we want to convert that to comp space. So if we do that, you see red moves inside and the position becomes 1148 by 660. So 1148 by 660, that checks out. And if you wanted to define another position in green's layer space, maybe you say, I don't know, 300 by 300, red will go there. So we're saying, okay, let's look inside green. Let's go along 300 in its layer space and down 300 in its layer space and convert that point to comp space. And we'll put red there, which we've done. That's 1448 by 960. So 1448 by 960. Remembering in comp space, this is 0, 0, and that's 1920 by 1080. That makes sense, right? So say we want to do this, but red has its own parent. Well, let's figure out how to do it. We'll put down some guides just to remember where we're aiming for. And we'll create a new null, call it red parent, move it over here. And what we do is we parent it, and then you see that red disappears. And that makes sense, right? Because we're taking 1448 along and 960 down just as we did, but instead of being in comp space, so measuring from here, we're measuring from here. So we're now measuring relative to red parent's layer space. So we need to take this coordinate that we just got, which is 1448 by 960. We'll just call it X, and we're going to take it out of comp space. And you know how here we had green, and that got us into green's layer space. So to get into the parent's layer space, we write parent. And that moves it back where we want it to move. And we can check this, right? Because if we say, okay, we take that point X out of comp space and we put it into the parent's layer space, we move along by 1,000 and then down by 270. So that looks right? Like if we take the distance between this point and this point in red parent's layer space, we go along 1,000 and down 270. That makes sense. So if we really wanted to push our learning, we could change it from red parent's layer space into red's own layer space. So we're going to do this layer. Now it says minus 2660. And how that works is if we just take off all of this stuff, you can look at red's 0, 0, 0, and red's layer space is here. So minus 2660 is actually the distance between 0, 0 and red's layer space and where X is in comp space. And then it all kind of falls apart, obviously, because we're still measuring minus 2660 from red's parent layer space. So that's how it all fits together. And I have definitions of position and anchor point here. And yeah.